Welcome, IT changemakers, to the DEX Show with Tim Flower and Tom McGraw. Let's get into it.
Hello, changemakers. Welcome to the DEX Show. I'm Tom McGraw, joined as ever by Tim Flower. Tim, how's it going?
It's going well, Tom. I think the last time we chatted, which wasn't too long ago, you're getting ready for vacation. I wish I was as well. I'm envious, but I hope you have a great time while you're away.
Thank you, man. You've of course had your vacation. It was a month-long vacation with COVID in a hotel room. So I don't think
I know you're not envious.
You can complain after that experience.
You're not envious of my vacation.
Not envious. Hopefully, we don't replicate it in any which way. We have a great guest with us today. Her name is Patti Blackstaffe. We've been trying to get her on the show for some time, actually. She's an advisor, speaker, coach, and author. She specializes in organizational governance, digital leadership, consulting, and really igniting the fusion of technology and humanity. And I think for that reason alone, you can see why we've been trying to bring her on board. Patti, it's lovely to finally get you on the DEX Show. Welcome.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. I really appreciate being here. Thank you.
Superb. Tell the listenership, Patti, something about yourself and your career first of all, so we can situate your experience, please.
Oh my goodness. Well, I started my technology career 20 years ago. Do I say that under my breath? And working for an international company, we built control systems for large infrastructure, oil and gas, water, traffic and transport, that kind of thing. So I directed a team of integrators who went all over the world, 40 different countries, installing these things. And so, of course, I'm a bit of a tech geek. A while back, I founded a company that I just felt like, wasn't quite happening on the governance, leadership, and transformation and change on the human-centered side. So we started a company, my co-founder, husband, and I, and we enhance the performance of individuals, teams, organizations. We focus on governance, leadership, digital transformation. We coach for digital transformation. And I happen to be a fellow for the Institute for Digital Institute for Digital Transformation.
Great. So I have a feeling this first question is going to catch your interest, Patti, right? We've been podding a lot at the moment about this shift we seem to be going through, this strange period in workplace history. We've just gone from the remote work surge, the great resignation, etc., and now we feel ourselves shifting into something else, a post-pandemic workplace, if you will, with perhaps significantly more economic insecurity than we've been used to in recent years. From your perspective, as someone really focused on that, on digital leadership and digital transformation, what's your interpretation of this transition and what's your expectation of it?
Well, I think we're still in the middle of it. Although we call it post-pandemic, I think the hard work is just beginning. There is a lot going on, right? We're in a time and space of total flux, and it's kind of an emergent process, and we have to look at it that way. Nothing's truly stable, and then the economy is now jumping on top of that with words and fears about a downturn. And we're starting to see the start of layoffs and a number of other things. So people are navigating change perspectives and creating new interconnectedness. What do I mean by change perspectives? The sentiment of employees, people working for companies, completely shifted over the entire pandemic. So we need to really take a look at how we're reevaluating systems, and companies are really struggling to find their way. The one thing that really hits me right now is that time and space no longer matter, at least in the context of employee performance, right?
Yep.
Time and space are no longer mattering. So we're seeing this shift in the collective where employees are getting that and companies are having a hard time struggling with that, thinking that they need to be at the forefront of something, but there's so much, what do I jump onto?
So, Patti, you're in good company. My technology career starts with a TH instead of a TW, so I've got a few years. and as I look back, this never-ending process of digital transformation, we've been transforming for decades. Do you anticipate that ongoing transformation of how we do tech impacting or being impacted by this prospect of an economic downturn?
Absolutely. I think when you look at digital transformation, we went through a period where companies were hoping Captain Alchemy would show up and magic would produce this business transformation, right? The reality is, though, that companies are like a biological structure, right? If you walked into the redwood forest right now and you would look at this immense biological structure where everything is interconnected. In the past, we haven't totally looked at the whole system, but I think we're being forced to do that right now. And that's a true transformation. That's when we're talking about real transformation. The drivers from the business side will still be tightly tied to business outcomes, but I think what we're going to see over the next little bit is this restraint for tech purchases, but they're going to buy them when they need them. Right. However, the fear I have right now for that is how they're going to lighten the internal support and the requirements that make a digital transformation successful, right? I see they're using the word lean as cost cutting as opposed to lean as effective. And so I think we're going to see a little bit of that in the digital transformation space in the next little while.
Yeah, change is hard. Transformation is harder. There's that fear of, can I accomplish it? Am I anticipating the outcomes properly? Is it worth the effort? But if you look at digital transformation, if you take that step back, I love that concept of stepping into that redwood forest where it's an ecosystem, it's a single living, breathing thing. What's then the institutional secret to keeping and ensuring ongoing transformation is successful? How do you keep the forest not only alive but growing and changing?
So I think what we're talking about is systems thinking, right? If we're talking about the interconnectedness of the entire company and everything within it, it's really a living, breathing organism, just like the rainforest. Each tree, plant, insect, microbe, creature, they all contribute to the forest's health. If you take away one type of organism or it gets sick, you change the entire ecosystem. So digital transformation is kind of like that. You can see the entire system as interconnected, which is a fundamental principle, kind of like, and you have to expand your understanding, your mindset about that. It's like the glass bottle is to sand, or we're talking about a chair to a tree. Everything is interconnected, where it comes from and where the base is. So that's governance. That's the entire decision-making process. That's the procedures. Those are the things that happen within the organization. And there's this synthesis during transformation that when you combine things that are new, it's not about those parts. It's not about the technology or just the people. It's really about the effect once the parts are working together. So you've made changes, you don't know what you're going to achieve until you've moved through this emergent process. And really it requires testing and experimentation. And we're looking at really ensuring that you look at it that way with feedback mechanisms that help you adjust as you go.
One theme that I've seen come up again and again in your work, Patti, is that of adaptability. Would seem a pretty useful virtue in periods of change and uncertainty. How do you cultivate that, though, and why is that cultivation so important?
Adaptability is talking about individuals, leaders, and companies. So it's kind of a three-layer thing, and we keep hearing the word agile thrown out there. Agile, we want to be agile. Agile is about individuals, leaders, and the company actually being adaptable. So if you look at it from the company side, it's not just adapting to a constantly changing environment, which we've had to do, but it's how do you grow with the change, right? That's how do we as a company actually grow with the change. And that takes planning, feedback loops, cross-functional transparency, autonomy. We're looking at decentralized decision-making, but not, a free-for-all. We're talking about within the bounds of corporate governance, of course, right? And then there's leaders. They have to manage 3 stages of adapting. First, they have to accept changes going on, and that means they need an absolutely open mind. Stability, we're talking about really looking at what can we control, and we saw a lot of that through the pandemic, right? What can we control? And then once you've done that, you have to move on. You can't stay in that control space, which a lot of companies, I'm kind of seeing them try to do that right now. But you have to set new goals. It's like self-reflecting on new perspectives, and those perspectives of the employees have changed. You have to readjust the goals to be able to look at how those changes are really impacting the company. And then for individuals, I think this is the hardest one because we feel so out of control when we're a little lower on the rung, right? The important piece about adaptability is accepting that your behavior shift is going to be necessary. There's going to be behavior changes that have to happen through a transformation. So you got to find the humor. You've got to accept that it's going to be crazy and ambiguous. Be a fixer, not a blamer, right? How can I jump in? So help out with those changes. You need to offer assistance, guide others, communicate, take a leading role, because adaptability really is about being able to control the emergent process for you as you develop your skills in that area. So you got to do some training, take a look at it rather than fight it. Then gain a fresh perspective. Ask a lot of questions. Curiosity is the mother of being able to adapt. Clarify confusion. Ask about possibilities. See how you can contribute. If you combine those 3 layers, the company, the leader, and the individual, when you see that happening within an organization, you're actually seeing them be able to manage transformation well.
So let's stay on that I don't like to call it the bottom rung, the individual adaptability, because there's a component of that is related to personalization. And to keep with the forest theme, trees are different than ferns and are different than bugs, but each tree is different from the other one. Each leaf on the tree is different than the other ones. There's got to be diversity for the whole ecosystem to be as successful as it can. If everything was the same, it wouldn't be as successful. I'm curious, kind of as you've done your homework over the last couple of years, that distributed workplace and the Great Resignation, how has that impacted that quest for technological personalization?
I think it's going to make or break companies on the talent front, to be honest with you. We have remarkable opportunities right now to get this right. But it's going to take some reimagining of our workplaces and being flexible. I have a colleague who works for an organization in the States called, I believe it's American First. And they took their building and their location and they did a whole $3 million override of exactly what it was. They turned it into a collaborative space. Now they were in an old financial building that had traditional offices and kitchen spaces, but it wasn't working for what they were trying to achieve coming out of the pandemic. So when people came back to work after the pandemic, those who wanted to, they made it this experience. So this whole digital experience, when you walk in the front door, you can guests can sign in on an iPad station. It immediately informs other people. You get upstairs. They've got this incredible collaborative space. So what we're talking about is, if this is the way you work, and when you mention the word diversity, we're talking about neurodivergent people who really can be creative and create those amazing products and the solutions that we're looking for. So personalization in their minds was, how do we create the functional space using digital technology to ensure everyone has what they need? They have things on their desks so that they can contact support immediately without having to do it on a wait forever basis. They've got all kinds of technology that they're using, and then they reimagine the space. So you've got to rethink your digital home base. Where is everybody touching base? How are they connecting? I think the big learning here that we need to understand is attendance is not performance. right? It's not about bums and seats. It's about discarding the unnecessary, meetings that don't need to happen, finding digital tools that connect us, that help us with sentiment, that help us understand how to connect and collaborate in ways we've never done before.
So we're on a search then. What needs to happen to make that search real and actually realize that potential, that possibility, and why does it matter so much?
It matters so much because perspectives have shifted, period. There's the meaning in people's lives has changed, really has, through the pandemic. The past wants, desires, all of those are kind of faded, right? So the individuals are rewriting their own personal futures, and we're seeing new actions, new meaning, new wants. A company that can't consider being flexible is going to suffer, and they're going to suffer in skilled individuals, right? Asking people to work as they worked before is kind of like trying to push a baby calf back up into the mother cow, because it's just not going to happen, right? It's time to reimagine our workplaces outside of the context as we understand it, which means we're not going to have all the answers immediately, and we got to play with this thing a bit. We've got to experiment and figure some of those things out, right?
Well said, Patti. And so last question for you then. With that all in mind, why should investment in employee experience continue to be a priority over the next year for employers, even as we leave that great resignation period behind and enter this new one that you've really laid out so well?
Oh, the landscape's flat out changed. People have changed, right? So we've established that. But there's also this convergence of remarkable technologies that are altering the expectations within traditional business. So it's not unlike when we saw touchscreen iPhones come out, that people's expectations change when they begin to experience this incredible convergence of technologies. We have better speed than we've ever had before. We now can do things that we dreamed about in the 1950s, but the infrastructure couldn't make it happen, right? We're there. So I think employee experience is a key to growth and retention, right? If you want to grow and you want to retain people, really good skill, that's important. Why is the skill piece important? Because these technologies, the acceleration of technologies, means we're not going to have the luxury of saying, I need somebody with 10 years experience. Everything is moving so quickly that we need to, in order to grow, we need to attract the kind of skill that can learn quickly, that can manage these new technologies, that can handle the requirements our businesses need, right? So employee sentiments, perspective, expectations, we have to give them a voice. We have to help companies bring the very best skills needed for remaining competitive and relevant, like I said. But there's no better time than now to adopt this human-centric approach, to hear that voice so that organizations can thrive, because ultimately that's why they're in business.
What a fantastic note to end on, Patti. And I'm so glad we finally were able to get you on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Just let our listeners know, where can they find you, follow you, if they want to get more of these insights or make direct contact and get your expertise involved with their own work?
Awesome. I'm Patti Blackstaffe on LinkedIn. You can find me over at, especially if you're looking to build high-performing teams, you can find me at GlobalSway.com. Or I also encourage folks to head over to the Institute for Digital Transformation.org and check out the Digital Transformation Manifesto. It really talks about the underlying foundation and the tenets required for digital transformation. And hit me up anytime. Connect with me on Twitter or LinkedIn. You can find me by searching my name.
Love it. Thank you so much, Patti. We'll make sure we include all of those linked in the show notes below. Thank you so much for coming on the DEX Show at last.
Well, thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Tim. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Betty.
To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the podcast deserves. If you'd like to learn more about how NextThink can help you improve your digital employee experience, head over to nextthink.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.